Welcome back. And this is the first full-on, complete, and total just preview that I have done since March. Yesterday, of course, I previewed the three games that we're having today. We've had the one. We've got two more coming as I record this. And on the Thursday, we've got three. So I don't know. I'm just going to do a full preview, or if I'm going to do what I did yesterday, which is have the news of the day combined with the preview. I'll probably just do a news of the day thrown in. There was some really minor news today. It just feels like once hockey's going on, I'm like, all right, well, I can push that down the road a little bit. Sonny Milano's signing an extension, but again, that can get pushed down the road a little bit, and we can get into me really not liking that I'm left-handed because of this right here. This is how am I gonna? I guess I could use it backwards. Paper's not made to work that way though. All right. First up, Florida and Tampa. So these teams got together a ton during the exhibition before this season started, and then they started with back-to-backs against each other. I'm sure they were sick of seeing each other, but they haven't seen each other since December 23rd, so it's been over 7 months since they last saw each other. Now this game is at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. The records for Tampa and Florida are as thus: 43-21-6 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, 35-26-8 for the Florida Panthers. They met on October 3rd, which was opening night. Tampa Bay beat Florida 5-2. On October 5th, Florida beat Tampa in Florida 5-3. December 10th, Tampa Bay won in Florida 2-1, and December 23rd, Tampa beat Florida 6-1. So Tampa has proven 3 out of 4 tries this season they can beat Florida. And for Florida, they're going to want to come out and at least have a good game because they're going into a series against the New York Islanders, and they're going to want to be sharp because the New York Islanders, I think, are a bigger threat than they necessarily get credit for, even from me, because I took Florida to win that series. So we'll see how that turns out. But this should be a good, fun game between two teams that odds are won't like each other very much by the end of the end of the first. And yet I just watched Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and they weren't tearing each other a new one by any stretch because exhibition games. So again, just make sure nobody gets hurt, that kind of thing, and then we go from there. All right, next on the board, Colorado in against Minnesota. This game starts at 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So again, if you're a fan in Europe, you're in luck. Games are going to be starting when you can watch them. 42-20-8 was the record for the Colorado Avalanche. 35-27-7 was the record for the Minnesota Wild. These two teams have a very long, storied history against one another. October 5th, Colorado beat Minnesota 4-2. November 21st, Minnesota got their measure of revenge with a 3-2 win at home against Colorado. December 27th, Minnesota went into Colorado and won 6-4. February 9th, Colorado went into Minnesota and won 3-2. So home ice didn't mean that much in the last two meetings, meant a lot in the first two, and it'll be interesting to see how they come out of this one. And of course, if you're a fan of the Vancouver Canucks, you'll be watching to see how Minnesota does here, how sharp they look. Again, it's not as much about whether a team wins or loses in this. It is about how they look. Are they cohesive? Are they making good passes? Are they making smart decisions on the ice? This kind of stuff that you're going to be looking at that normally we wouldn't be all that worried about it. You're more worried about the result. You'd be like, well, it doesn't matter what happened on the ice because we won. In this case, it's not quite there. But yeah, and for Colorado and for Tampa above them, of course, they're both going to be in the round robin. So there's less reason to be as worried. I don't know how seriously teams are taking this whole idea of going for the number one seed in the West or the East. I don't know how important that is to them. I don't get the feeling it's probably very important, but we'll find out. We'll find out once we get into the round robin. Next up, Carolina in against the Washington Capitals. So this one starts at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. So there's overlap between these two games. There may be overlap between these two games depending on whether or not we get overtime, like we had between Pittsburgh and Philly today. 38-25-5 was the record for the Carolina Hurricanes. Washington was 41-20-8. Washington, of course, much like Colorado and like Tampa, they have the round robin, so they don't have as much pressure on them right now. But you've got to think Ovechkin's going to go out there and try to score a goal or two anyways. And again, I didn't see a whole lot of guys being rested on either the Flyers or the Penguins in that third period or overtime. So I don't expect to see a lot of guys being rested here either. They haven't played since March. You want them to be sharp. October 5th, these teams met in Washington. Carolina won that game in overtime, 3-2. December 28th, Carolina beat Washington, 6-4. And then Washington started to claw back. January 3rd, they won in Carolina 4-3. January 13th, Washington won at home against Carolina 2-0. So these teams know each other very well. They met in the first round last year. They could meet in the first round again this year, depending on how the seedings work out. If Colorado knocks out the New York Rangers, we could very well see them. This could be setting up, any of these could be matchups in the first round, right? So this could set up yet another meeting between these teams who, keep in mind, they don't get along. They just don't, which is not really a surprise in the playoffs, but yeah. St. Louis. So the Blues will play the Blackhawks. This game starts at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. Again, if this game goes into overtime, there could be some overlap with this. 42-19-10 is the record for the St. Louis Blues during the regular season, whereas the Chicago Blackhawks, 32-30-8. And let's be honest, the Chicago Blackhawks, they were selling at the deadline. Looked like they were just accepting their fate and going, well, we'll just rebuild and, we're done. And we'll tear it down. Montreal was doing the same thing at the deadline, and now they're in a position where, hey, we can be spoilers. And what better team to try to spoil if you're a Chicago fan than St. Louis? The problem is, St. Louis did very well against Chicago in the regular season this year. December 2nd, St. Louis wins 4-0 in Chicago. December 14th, St. Louis won at home 4-3. February 25th, this was a crazy game. St. Louis beat Chicago 6-5. I remember watching and reviewing that one. And then March 8th, in Chicago, St. Louis won 2-0. St. Louis with 2 shutouts in Chicago. I'm going to go ahead and say that's probably the only time that's ever happened in St. Louis's history against Chicago, because honestly, the fact they swept them 4-0, it's not a great matchup if you're the Blackhawks. It's a matchup the Hawks used to love, not so much anymore, but it's an old-fashioned rivalry and would be that upset if the Hawks scored an upset over the Oilers and played the Blues in round one. No, I'm not talking to Oiler fans. I know Oiler fans would be very upset. I'm just saying in general, we'd be that upset. Yeah, Oiler fans would be pretty upset. But we'll see how that game goes. And again, we'll look and see if there's any kind of ugliness that takes place in the games, because that's quite possible. Islanders. The Islanders in against the Rangers. This game starts at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. There will be overlap between these two games. This is going to happen during the playoffs as well. There will be overlap, because keep in mind, during the play-ins and the playoffs, there's unlimited overtimes in the play-in games. Now the round robin is regular rules, where you have the 5-minute overtime and the shootout. But with play-ins, we could have very, very long days. So starting this Saturday, I could be up really late making reviews for all you fine people out there and trying to figure out when to squeeze the previews in as well. Now for this one that starts at 8 Eastern, 35-23-10 New York Islanders are in against the New York Rangers, who are 37-28-5. Notably, the Rangers had more wins. The Islanders were higher up in the standings. This is part of the reason why the playoffs were expanded to 24 teams. Because there are teams that were below the playoff line that could argue, hey, we won our share of games. We won more than those guys over a full 82 games. We would have caught them. So the NHL goes, you know what? Fine. We'll expand it for this year, and we'll see how it goes. January 13th, these teams met in Madison Square Garden. The Rangers won that meeting 6-2. That was a disaster for the Islanders. January 16th, the Rangers won in New York 3-2. January 21st, the Islanders went into Madison Square Garden and won 4-2. And then February 25th, the Rangers won in overtime 4-3. So these teams didn't meet very much at all, and then they met 4 times in about 6 weeks. A little under 6 weeks. So they got to know each other pretty quickly. And the Islanders and Rangers, you can always expect them to, if they meet in the playoffs, you welcome National Hockey League and all of its fans, because that would be an amazing first-round matchup. And last game on the board is a matchup I would love to see in a playoff at some point. You can't get this one in the first round, just like you can't get this one in the first round either, because these teams are both playing play-in rounds, and they'll decide which of the teams in the round robins they face. At 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, so very early in the morning for Europeans who pointed that out to me when I talked about late games here. 36-27-6 Vancouver will be in against the 37-28-6 Winnipeg Jets. Now, unlike every other game on this board, Vancouver and Winnipeg are not in the same division. But Vancouver does have a bone to pick with the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets keep beating them. This year, it wasn't close. November 8th, Winnipeg wins 4-1 in Winnipeg. And then January 14th, again in Winnipeg, they won 4-0. Winnipeg was going to come and play in Vancouver and beat them again, but the world shut down before the Winnipeg-Vancouver game in Vancouver, which is probably for the best for Vancouver because they don't play very well against Winnipeg. The Jets have their number. So we'll see how that looks for them tomorrow. It's a good test. All 6 of these games are good tests. So if you're going to watch these games, don't focus as much on the win and the loss and who gets what. Focus on who's playing well. Focus on the passing, how crisp they look, how they look in the second period. That Pittsburgh-Philly game today showed me these guys are going to have a hard time with their legs as the game goes on. The energy level should pick up in the third as they realize the win's there to be taken. That second period, that could be tough in some of those play-in games and definitely could be tomorrow in these exhibition games. I will be here to watch all of it for all you fine people. I do intend to do a video for each game if possible, but you guys will have to tune in to find out. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video and hockey's back, and I'm very glad to bring it all to you fine people. I will talk to you again soon.